Welcome back to the Advisory Table, our series of fireside chats with industry influencers and thought leaders. Today, I'm pleased to welcome a distinguished guest who serves as the Senior Vice President and Head of Canadian Equity here at Peakhill Capital. Please welcome to the podcast my colleague and friend, Mr. Ira Markus. Maybe we'll jump right into where we are in the market right now. Okay. You and I talk about this a lot. We have a lot of people that come looking for equity from your group. And, we've talked about the sort of maybe perhaps the different way of analyzing who we're partnering with. I guess the question is, how are alternative investment strategies reshaping the way capital is deployed in this market?
I mean, we are dealing with a market today, which is unlike anything that kind of you and I have experienced in a long time. And it has been that way for the last few years. And where we've sort of arrived at today is this like interesting intersection where capital is required, but deal opportunities are being reshaped. So you have developers, most of the people that we work with are not necessarily intermediaries, they're actually the developers who are trying to create communities or commercial real estate projects and make them successful in Canada. And they are looking at things a little bit differently, probably not as differently as we would like. So we get to sort of interject and provide some like creative options for them or alternative ways of financing those projects or building them out. We look at a number of different things. So when we're looking at a project, whereas traditionally you'll say, this is your business plan, this is your cost basis, this is how you're going to build it out, this is how you're going to create value. Today, that measure of value creation is changing. So that means that expectations around traditional returns have changed or are changing on the capital front. And the way that we finance projects has also been changing. We're looking at a lot of distressed opportunities where you have sponsorship that is already invested in something and are looking for a capital partner to help them sort of true up so that they can meet the requirements of a lender, so they can meet the requirements of the market, and so they can complete projects. And we therefore have like the opportunity to come in and participate in deals at a different stage than we would have traditionally, rather than look at things as completely forward-looking forecasts from the beginning right through to the end. We get to join a project sometimes midway through that cycle. And that de-risks a deal for us. It hopefully will de-risk the deal somewhat for the sponsorship as well. But it allows us to really kind of add the best value for you.
I think the risk part is perhaps the part that's most important in this market, frankly.
Yeah.
Right? When we're experiencing a market like what we're experiencing now, people become more skittish. Money isn't and capital isn't as deployed as readily as it once was. Mm-hmm. And so would you agree that it's more, let's call it the established, more blue chip developers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those types of sponsors, the ones who have the deepest pockets, really, and the greatest sort of track record, those will probably be the most successful in terms of attracting new capital.
Yes.
I think if you have up-and-comers who believe that they see opportunities in the market, right? They think that in a couple of years' time, this is going to be a very underserved residential market anywhere in the country, and they want to jump into that, into that pool. It's going to be difficult for them to attract new capital because they don't have a track record. And they don't have...
I hate to hear that. I mean, we don't want to discourage people.
I agree.
That fall within that, let's say, cross section from jumping into this market, but be forewarned. It's going to be harder for you to get your hands on.
For sure. I think on the flip side, I think a lot of those seasoned developers who to some extent still have a pipeline. They actually have things they can continue to do that predate, some of the volatility that we're experiencing now. They're going to keep busy with what they have, and they're generally more risk averse anyway.
Right.
It's those younger, newer development companies that have a higher tolerance for risk. They're going to be the ones that are sort of building out the infrastructure for the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, you want to be partners with those groups because they've got vision.
Right.
Because they have an appetite to do things which is different than your seasoned development groups. But the challenge is when you're talking to capital.
Yeah.
When we're talking to institutional capital.
Yeah. Show me your track record.
That's a huge question mark for them.
Yeah.
And if they're looking at the best use of their funds.
Yeah.
Yes, they want to be involved with visionary, hungry developers, but they also want to box that rest.
This paradox is quite compelling, frankly. Okay, it's super interesting, and it probably explains a little bit about what's going on in our market right now and why there's some stagnancy in the market, and breaking through or breaking out of that paradox. It'll be interesting to see. I hope that it's a combination of both. We need the blue chip developers who are active with track records, and we need these young up and comers to with the vision and the entrepreneurial strength to take that to the next level.
And I think that the next, and maybe we'll get to this later in the conversation, but I think the next 12 to 24 months are going to bear out, who's willing to really push ahead with projects, because there's going to be a need for new development.
Separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we're going to have to do.
Just to go back to the market for a minute, right? I mean, I think that there's two views here. And we touched on this very, very, very briefly, but I want to unpackage it a little bit more. Sort of this view where you have one tranche that says, "Hey, this is the opportune time. Now is the time to capitalize." And then you have this you have the second tranche that they're just skittish to do anything. Is it the best market, or should we wait and see?
I think there are a lot of different factors at work.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I think objectively speaking, it's been so quiet in 2025 from a transaction perspective, from a new development perspective. If you look at sort of what the queue is at any municipality to get new approvals in place, it's never been sort of shorter to get things through that queue.
Right.
Because there's so little.
Huge opportunity.
There's so little actually happening. So that's the opportunity. The opportunity is the fact that if you look at what the completion dates will be in a couple of years' time, developers today would be delivering into a market that really requires housing, and they could succeed, right? They could really capitalize on that opportunity. But what they're fighting with is the capital investment world, where most investors in alternatives, most investors in real estate development traditionally have invested over the last 15 or 20 years in deals that have been successful. But in the last 5 years, as a result of interest rate issues, COVID, changes in, working dynamics, all kinds of other issues, immigration, they are essentially walked into deals that they've invested in over the last 4 or 5 or 6 years. And they don't have the liquidity to now say, oh, we can recycle capital and redeploy it in new developments. So they have to come up with fresh capital, or we have to look for fresh sources of investment. And that's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to find new sources of capital investment who have an appetite for doing something that's essentially illiquid, even though the returns look great. It takes a lot of convincing. And you have to really kind of craft a great story around any project you want to do in order to convince them to come to the table.
Right. When do we see more of momentum? Are we 2 years out, 3 years out? I mean, when are we? I mean,
I'm hoping sooner than later. You have lots of conversations with developers, with lenders, with intermediaries, with brokers, with lawyers. You can talk to kind of anybody who's touching these things. Even though interest rates have dropped a full point over the course of the last 12 months, they don't seem to be moving the needle. And maybe it's not interest rates that we should be focusing on. Maybe it's something that's a little more macroeconomic, which is, how do Canadians feel today in an economic environment which is so volatile, not because of our purchasing power per se, but because of where we are geopolitically in the world, right? Like we've been fighting this trade war essentially for the last 9 months. And I think that is that's top of mind most when you talk to people is how do Canadians feel about their ability to purchase a new home or build something, first-time home buyers who want to move out of apartment buildings, when are they going to be ready? And in the same way that, COVID sort of ran its course, it changed our mindset a lot, but we've now put it in the rearview mirror and we've moved past it. This too shall pass, right? So the question is how long it's going to take for people's minds to adjust their psychology to adjust to these new geopolitical realities. And that hopefully won't take super long. I think we're already getting used to the fact that our groceries cost more than they used to. Other consumable goods cost more than they used to. Over the course of the next 12 months, 18 months, I think that psychology is going to sort of revert to a mean. And hopefully that will bring buyers into the market, investors into the market, developers will be able to be active again. I'm hoping 2026 will be a really good year. And hopefully for both of us here at Peakhill, we can do a lot of good work.
My sentiments exactly. I think that's a good place to end. We talk a lot about this stuff. I really appreciate the friendship that you've given me in the short time that I've been here, and allowing me to come and bother you to talk to you about all this stuff. And I'm excited for our audience to see why I come and talk to you about this stuff all the time. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. All right.